All right, we are joined by my regular co-hosts, but this season they were players up until about halfway through. Connor, also known as Danni.
What up, what up?
And Shonee, also known as Nofo.
Hi.
Today we're going to talk about the season as a whole, but we're going to get into the rundown for the fan favorite, and then we'll go over our thoughts for each of the players as they come up in the placement. But first, what did you guys think of the season after watching?
It was so good. It was probably one of my favorite seasons to watch since I've been in Stranded.
Yeah, I would agree. It was definitely a lot of fun to be able to watch, especially having played with them for the first half of the game, to kind of go into the second half and be able to root for some people and root against some others. It made it a lot of fun for me.
You know, a season's always good when everyone's posting crazy shit everyone says and they have no idea what's happening at Tribal Council. Particularly, I think that tie boot around the final 10 with the three-way tie was insanity. And really, I mean, this has been our best season in, I think even Wak was saying, since Allies. And I would probably agree with that. Not that the seasons haven't been great, but this is like a true classic season of Stranded where you never know what's going to happen. Everybody's firing on all cylinders. Plenty of drama, plenty of strategy. I mean, really anything you can ask for. This is definitely one of our best.
And there were only like maybe 4 period in this game, and they all, save for one, went home back to back immediately.
Yeah, we really lucked out with the boot order as well. What do you guys think of the winner, Rohan?
Well, we're not going to spend too much time sucking his dick on this podcast because there's another one for that. But I think he played well. I think it's definitely the best I've seen him play, which granted is only one other season. But he was a good mix of likable, strategic, and hardcore. So I liked it.
Oh, it was totally deserved.
Yeah, I think Nofo, you were saying like it's, you know, in Stranded we always look at these story arcs of that players go throughout a season, and I think poetically it was the best win as well as strategically. But
he pretty much stole the win out from under Moana. That's what happened.
And the fact that he had been to a majority of the tribal councils, like almost all of them. I think he only missed 2. You know, he really played a good season, and that last shot at Moana, I think, is like a masterclass in the right move at the right time, because it was clear she was going to win otherwise, and that was
someone like Lee or Moana. Right, she could win that.
Lee or Moana, right? And really, I would have been happy with a majority of the winners outside of Fenella, who had some activity issues, but even Benji wouldn't have been a terrible winner. Certainly better than a lot of the winners that we've had in the past. I just think everybody was playing so hard. We were going to get a good ending no matter what. Although, Connor, you had some issues with Benji.
You know, it wasn't even an issue with Benji per se. I just think it's really difficult when you have such a strong cast, and one of the people from Final 7 on was labeled by the rest of the cast as a GOAT. And I think that there were some different ways he maybe could have argued at the end. I don't have an issue with him as a player. I just think as a winner for the season, he didn't fit.
Let's go ahead and get into the fan favorite, because we'll talk about a lot of the season as we go over each player. So first on the list, not surprisingly, our first boot, Tarzan, who did not show up. Showed up more than some people, but really inactive for all intents and purposes. There's not a whole lot we can say about the gameplay, but I will say I was excited to see Beefcake back again. I know he's a controversial character on Survivor Sucks, but I always think he's hilarious. And anytime he says, you know, I want to play a season, I'll give him a shot, because his first season he was really good. He hasn't had the activity since then, but he always makes me laugh. So I figure if he's going to be an early boot, might as well be somebody funny.
Well, I mean, neither of us met him, so we can't really say anything about him.
Yeah, we'll blow through a lot of these early ones because we have lots to talk about when it comes to the later ones. So I'll just move on to the next one. But I will say I did enjoy the few times he dropped into the loser lodge and made some comments. Craig is in 23rd place. I think he showed up maybe the first day. I don't know. Did he talk to you guys on Djaru?
Yeah, he was around a lot the first night and then disappeared.
He never logged back in.
Yeah, so maybe something happened activity-wise or something came up. Craig was one of the people, he played JP in Faroe Islands and was an early boot there, but he's since gone on to play a lot of online games on Orgy. So I figured that's a good opportunity for kind of a second chance pick. Not quite the all-star caliber, but he was one of the people that were in the pool of the last four. So to be cast that I was playing around with. And I thought this was a good opportunity to give him a shot. Didn't work out this season, but...
You know who I was surprised wasn't in the cast? Papa Bear or Ralph. I would have thought one of those two would have been in here.
Well, I emailed them. They didn't get back to me. So, I know Ralph I've talked to fairly recently. He's in the middle of college, so his availability isn't all there. And I've not heard from Papa Bear at all, so God knows where he is. I'll keep trying. Maybe season 2 we'll get lucky with him. All right, moving on to our 22nd spot. It's Luke. And I'm actually surprised Luke is this low, considering I think he was more active than a couple people, but he was on the inactive side. Obviously, he got removed for disappearing mid-season. So there's not a whole lot we can say. I will say I was very excited to see Trish again because she got back to me after I had the cast finalized. And originally we had Nick from Socotra playing Luke, and he was a no-show again. So Luke or Trish got back to me and said, hey, I'm still interested in playing. I just found this in my spam folder. So I was like, perfect. You'd be great in this. And I thought he was good until he
disappeared.
Yeah, but yeah. I do think he stood a decent shot at actually definitely making merge. So there's that.
Well, yeah, Brooke was determined to drag his ass to merge whether or not he showed up. So I don't know what he did to win her over, but he was set up if we didn't have him removed.
Yeah, Brooke's MO is kind of to bring along the quasi-actives.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I could say about Luke. Moving on to, in 21st place, our former winner, Andy, who was not active in the game up until about an hour before his boot, and then was incredible.
I did hear some great stories about his tribal council.
Yeah, I think a deserved 4th place bump. Two spots up from his placement in the fan favorite poll. For those of you who don't know, Andy played Melinda in Stranded, very old school. Our second season she played, was the runner-up in a tiebreaker vote, came back 2 seasons later for All Stars season 4, and was a runner-up again in a tiebreaker vote and lost again. And then she came back for Rivals and was in the final 3 with Teresa, and was in a tiebreaker vote again with Teresa, but this time won.
That's wild.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool history for her. And of course, there's Andy here. He's an old school, so those seasons were 11 years ago. So he's a different person now, really. But still was a great strategist then. I would be willing to bet a great strategist now, just with a little bit more personality, as he's not taking these as seriously. I actually think he was great. He was a lot of fun in the Loser Lodge. And I think if we ever do a winner's season that's a little bit abbreviated, he might actually try there, because I think he enjoyed watching more than he did playing. And I think, he decided after the fact, like, oh, I wish I had put a little bit more effort into this,
Yeah.
Very excited to have Andy part of the cast, though, even though it was an early boot. Moving on to 20th place. This is a big drop from their placement, but probably expected. We have Fenella.
Doesn't surprise me.
No, and I don't think it would surprise her either. As we all know, Rourke played Fenella. Rourke was originally in Sri Lanka, and she came in late as part of a merge twist where she replaced an inactive. It was our latest replacement, but was more of a kind of an intruder twist, really, where she came in mid-season right at the merge. So she hadn't really even gotten to play a full season of Stranded. So, of course, I was considering her for this, and then she came to me a day before the season started and was like, I really want to play. I'm pissed that you're not putting me in. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take it. I was like, well, she kind of deserves it. I'll put her in there. And then I think she had some real life health issues. So her activity dropped, and the rest is history. I kind of berated her at her tribal council. She left.
Yeah.
Sort of bullied her out.
Person, no.
Oh, we love Rourke, she's a regular on the server. She's close friends with all of us. Certainly nothing personal behind me attacking her tribal council. It was purely just me trying to get the best season out of everybody. And maybe I went a little too hard. I don't know. I'm sure it affected things. That's what it was meant to do. I didn't want a semi-active in the finals. And I think evident by her voting in that popularity quiz, the Touchy Subjects Challenge, she wasn't really participating in the game as much as everyone else was. I really didn't have an idea of what was going on either. I think at that point it was like, I was almost considering removing her.
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely considered removing her a couple times. It was just, she was just active enough. She would log in for an hour and talk to people, know where to vote. But then, I mean, that doesn't really do any good. That's not setting her up for a win. That's setting up what Brooke wants to happen,
Right. Right. And really, I mean, it's not... I always tell people, this is not a Survivor situation. Survivor, if someone's on the island, they are active, right? But this is totally different, where you may not get people who show up to the game, and in which case they can't play with the other players that are devoting the time. So we have to work kind of around that to make this as realistic as possible. And I mean, number one, I don't think anybody deserves to be voted out before an inactive. And number two, I don't think it says anything about someone who wins against an inactive in the end. I just don't think it's a good experience all around for anybody,
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
But all that being said, I hope that she's doing well, and I'm glad that she got her chance if that's what she wanted, despite what I might have said in the game.
Yeah, and like I said, no hard feelings. We love her work, and we're wishing her the best. Hopefully she gets a good diagnosis that she's running tests on today. But also, I think this was not her time, and that's not to say she won't get another shot in another season. But this was not it. It's not her shining moment. But anyway, moving on to 19th place, we have Abby, played by Stephanie from Morocco.
Kind of surprised me that she's that low.
I'm not.
I think that's about around her boot number.
I think if she had been around longer, I think she would have been higher. I don't think she was ever really in a situation where, her personality that we all thought was hilarious in Morocco really came out. I heard that there was supposed to be like a very explosive tribal on Barakai between her and Brooke, that I think if that had happened, she would have been able to be the like crazy and kind of cunty Abby that we've come to know. But, she just didn't really have it. And then her boot was after a weekend of being gone, and she didn't really have like a flaming exit. It was just kind of, she showed up and found out she was leaving.
Yeah, I think that's another victim of circumstance from her real life schedule. And really, I mean, I don't even think she was inactive during that period. I think she was just less active on a brand new tribe. So it was really poor timing of a swap for her. But yeah, I mean, we all know she's got the goods to deliver. So a little bit of a sad early boot, but that's the way these things go. So, luckily, we had 20 other boots that were highly entertaining to fill the void. So no dead spots in this cast, really.
I mean, the only person that would maybe have been a less entertaining person than her would be Pia, but also another person who's very entertaining when they had their moment to shine. So
yeah, we're going to talk about Pia in a minute, so I'll reserve that for her incoming placement. But we'll move on a little bit to 18th place, which is Jono, coming off of his amazing performance in Isolated. For everyone who missed Isolated 4, definitely listen to that podcast when it happens, because Jono, played by Nate from Stranded, Tim from Isolated, really one of the most impressive performances in any online game was in that season with him. So, of course I invited him to this. Initially, I don't think he had time for it. And then he said, well, I'll give it a shot. And then I think a day into it, he got a new job opportunity. So his schedule was all wonky, so he couldn't perform. Still, I think even with a fraction of the activity level, still probably a better player than most new players, or even some of the players in this season.
Yeah, I heard he was went hard at the tribal that he went home at. So, I mean, even if, he was playing on a limited time crunch, I heard he still delivered. Heard he was still a lot of fun.
Yeah, actually, it was funny. Zach was trying to save him really hard at that boot, and he was like trying to bully Shane and Jackie into voting for him, and they were like, "No, we're not. We don't care about him," because he's like, right. Are you aligned with Flick and Monica? And I think that they were at the time, so he was probably onto something. But he was so good at the challenges that I think Zach wanted to keep him as an inactive that was going to help their challenge chances, and they just weren't going for that. I still think he was entertaining here, especially for an early boot. I just think, I'm not even disappointed because we got such a good season out of him almost immediately before this. This just wasn't his season. So in 17th place, we have Pia, played by Rob from Morocco. Really, a lot of the Moroccans went early this season, except for Moana. But Rob in particular was someone we were all excited to see back again.
Where are we?
Well, I was going to say,
well, if I was going to be watching.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe not playing with, but from a viewer's perspective, he was incredible drama and a lot of intrigue for the first couple boots. But I'm going to let Nofo talk about his experience with Pia.
Pia's a fucking bitch, and I'm so glad she went home before me, because if she outlasted me, I would have been pissed. I don't even know what I did.
I think, Connor, she went to you with some kind of plan to get. I think the way Pia plays is a little bit how I started playing in online games, and that's, you can identify the most social threats immediately, and I think Pia's game was to try to get those people out in a hurry, which is hard to do because the biggest social threats are the most connected. I think that's what was going on. She identified Shonee as a big threat, and I think
Moana was the other one.
Moana was the other one, yeah. And I mean, it's just so hard once those people get their teeth into people to oust them, especially when, Shonee and Moana were the two most active on the tribe. So I think that was the game, was to try to get rid of the threats, but backfired hardcore.
Well, yeah, because he didn't have nearly the amount of connections that he thought he did. I mean, seeing as I was the one who started throwing him under the bus that first couple days, two people that I was close with, I think he assumed that he was well connected and that he was going to be able to drive things. But with how active our tribe was, he was logging on with his European hours, coming in and trying to manipulate things when everybody else kind of had a better handle on what was going on in the tribe, which, I give him props for trying to make something happen rather than just sitting there and accepting his position, but maybe a wrong read on his part.
You know what? I wish we would have had a fight, because P and I were like so fake to each other the entire game. We never once, addressed that we both hated each other and we were both gunning for each other. That never happened. We were always being so fake and nice to each other to their face, then running back to Connor and talking shit about them about the other.
Yeah. Swapping with the two of you was my worst nightmare, and it came true. The fact that I had both of you and then Phoebe, who I didn't know if I could trust or not. I could not believe my luck.
I think I really wish we would have had a blow up moment between the two of us. I mean, really the only moment that kind of addressed the drama was at that tribal council where she went home and I was kind of gloating in her face.
Well, right. And at that tribal, Pia wasn't even the one making a big deal out of it. Pia was going to everybody else saying that he was willing to flip. And then everybody else took that as the opportunity to take him out because they knew that none of us would be trying to save him.
Yeah, this was during the double tribal, right?
Right.
Oh, I mean, if someone would have brought it up to me, I would have gone right for that. But I mean, they wanted to flush my idol.
Well, and yeah. I mean, I think that other tribe, Brooke in particular, they were so tight. They got you guys to split your vote, and then it was over for one of you.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think
they didn't even have to do the work. If I remember correctly, didn't Pia go to them right away and say, "I want to vote for Shonee"? I mean, there's no way that we win without Pia's vote, unless we correctly played our idols. But I wasn't going to waste an idol on Pia.
You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're the only one who had full view of what happened there.
I think by that point they had split their votes properly, and an idol play wouldn't have mattered even on Pia, because I still think they had the votes to get you guys out. I think they split their votes with some of your votes.
Didn't Fenella get 3 votes? So Fenella would have gone home if Pia got the idol played on her.
Yes.
We're joined by Shane now, by the way.
Sorry, I just had to tell some truth right there because I think that's what happened.
Were you at that?
I believe.
No, but everybody knew about it because Peter blabbed about it afterwards anyway.
Okay.
You at a restaurant?
No, that was a Subway. I'm on the streets of New York City, Brooklyn.
Oh. Okay. Come to us live from Brooklyn.
Can I say something to you all?
Yeah,
my Jaro members, if I were there, I wouldn't have let that shit happen. We would have stayed Jaro strong, and those people would not have mind fucked us, okay?
Yeah, I hated that swap. I hated it. Because I knew there was no way I was going to get out of that alive unless we won those challenges.
Oh, God, I wish. That's what I thought. I said when we won the double trouble, I was like, I almost wish I were there, because
Yeah.
You're right. They did have enough votes for Fenella to go because she had 3. Brooke had
And
1.
Shonee had 2.
But I would have gladly voted for Pia.
Why did you vote for Jenna Louise?
why did nobody vote for Jenna Louise until my trouble?
Because I thought Jenna Louise was close to Brooke. And that was completely wrong.
Y'all's votes were all over the place. Their votes were all Pia.
Yeah.
And then Fenella voted Brooke, her friggin' number 1.
Wait, she voted Brooke that tribal council?
Yes.
And but nobody noticed it, did they?
No.
Fenella is surprising me to this day.
Yeah, the whole time Brooke's dragging her along as an extra vote, and she's voting her out and telling.
She's already voted for her.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Fenella,
I did not know that.
Did you know I kept hinting to Brooke that Fenella was not with her, but I didn't want to outright say it because if somebody says that to you, you don't believe them.
Right.
So I kept being like, "Are you sure about Fenella?" Every once in a while, she's like, "I think so, unless I'm crazy." I'm like, "Okay."
You're crazy. Yeah.
You're crazy.
Oh man.
Anyway, we'll move on from Pia because
Why? I love this story.
Well, I think we've got all the information we can out of Pia's intense.
Well, I'm pretty sure Pia threw that challenge as well to try and take a shot at Shonee, and it backfired. So
it always does. Anytime someone throws a challenge with the hopes of getting someone out, it usually fucking backfires on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so who had the Tallulah idol? Was that you? Was that Connor?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, Shonee had the Tajaru idol.
You big faker, Nofo, saying you didn't know what happened to that idol.
Yeah, I found it on the second clue immediately after, and
so you were big lying to shame. Not very nice.
Forth to everyone, I have no clue what the answer means. I don't know what the clue means. Something about a rainbow snake.
So what's next after that?
All right, so in 16th place, we have Jenna Louise, who's played by Chelsea from Morocco. Very popular, big personality in Morocco. Came into this season much quieter, I think on purpose. She said, playing under the radar was the hardest thing she had to do. Almost impossible. But I think with all these other big personalities, I think it was a disservice to her to go that under the radar. I think she would have fit right in with a lot of these people.
That's
I
why
think so as well.
I voted for her. That is why I voted for her, because she was so under the radar. She was just there lurking, and it made me so uncomfortable. I'm like, this girl's smart. She's lying low and is just, gonna snake through. So that's why I put my vote on her.
Was she really in China?
The Philippines, right?
Philippines.
She's in the Philippines, but I think she works in China. She has a design competition over there. So she was at some point over there, and I think that's why she picked China, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think most people didn't even know it was Chelsea. I think that was a big surprise to everyone because Chelsea's such a big personality, and Jenna Louise was not.
You know what tipped me off, and I didn't know for sure because I was never on a tribe with her. She would use GIFs to communicate everything, and then if she used the words LOL, they were in all caps, and that reminded me of Chelsea from last season. But I didn't think it was her because Chelsea last season was constantly talking. So I was a little thrown off, but I think in my burn book, I was thinking she was this hardcore strategist. And I was like, oh, you're so clever. Fuck you. And turns out it was just Chelsea hiding.
I was thinking she was hiding behind Brooke.
Probably. And actually a little insider into this, because I think Rohan was on this tribe when Jenna Louise, this is after the second swap, was booted. It was because they thought that she had the idol, the Larica idol, and actually that came into play later in the season because everyone thought she was voted out with the idol. Because Rohan was so sure he had seen her up all night because she was on Philippines time. He thought she was searching so hard for the idol to find it, and maybe she was, but she didn't have the idol. So she went home, and then he miscalculated on Monica having the idol later in the season.
Well, it worked out for him, didn't it?
Anyway, any other thoughts on Jenna Louise?
Well, this particular vote was weird, because what Moana did. Remember?
No, I don't. You have to.
That was when
me.
Moana saved Benji.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That was this vote.
Benji had 2 votes against him.
So, okay, this is what happened with that. Moana has the idol, the pre-merge idol for Larakai, and the vote target was always going to be Benji, except... So heading up until that immunity challenge, Moana gives the idol to Benji to play. The challenge came back, and Jenna Louise did so horribly on the challenge that the target switched from Benji to Jenna Louise. And then Moana went around campaigning for everyone to vote for Benji so they didn't waste the idol. And everyone was like, what the fuck? We're not voting Benji. We're voting Jenna Louise. She's terrible.
Well, I was not voting for Benji at this point because this is pre-Benji trying to get Shane out. This was the moment where he and Jenna Louise put votes on me. That's why I was Benji crazy all game.
See, I know it was interesting this tribe because Moana, Lee, and yourself were all in this tribe together, all former winners. We had this 3-way winner situation going on, and at this time, you guys were in different alliances, and Lee was kind of in the middle. And it was interesting because Lee had ties to you and Jackie, Shane and Jackie. Mm-hmm. We saw a little bit of Moana playing you, Shane, because you didn't realize Moana had gone behind your back with the Benji vote. And then we also saw Lee cock block Moana, and he was not expecting that because, of course, he had spent time on a tribe with Lee, and he thought he was very close to Lee. And Lee was not about the plan to turn on Shane and Jackie because he was close to you guys. So it was interesting. We had like a little double blindside going on with all of the winners kind of outplaying each other. Any thoughts on that, Shane?
Yeah, I thought that's pretty like crazy.
But that's your thoughts on it? Thanks.
Wait, sorry. I was switching devices there. That was the first time in the game I said something negative about Moana, though, or like thought about voting for her, but it had nothing to do with,
Well, you got on the call with me, and you were so shocked that she had done that because I don't think you expected her to be that great of a player.
Yeah.
And you were like, what the fuck? And that was interesting because it was you identifying your biggest threat on the tribe. And it was also,
closest ally.
Well, and then I think, from there became closest allies. But
yeah, well, Jackie too, right, yeah.
I think it was you understanding like, oh shit, Moana's actually a pretty good player. And it was funny because it was Moana realizing, oh shit, Lee's not just going to do whatever I tell him to, Yeah.
And
it was interesting because all you guys were former winners, so it was a little bit of a mini winners season on that tribe.
Oh my god! Even one I voted for.
But anyway, so that's Jenna Louise. And number 15th in our fan favorite poll is Benji, our runner-up.
Oh. We could have switched over to him 5 minutes ago. We were just talking about Benji for 5 minutes.
But I think a little low for Benji, especially considering like Danni, you're higher than him, and so is
rightfully so.
I'm sure.
Maybe I don't know. I think Benji is underrated here.
I mean, I do think that he was a big character, but I think the problem is that everybody from here on out is pretty much was playing their asses off or was like a big person that like had a huge moment that was remembered,
I think the problem for me with Benji is I could never get a good read on him. Like, we had a good conversation the first night, and then immediately after that, it just switched to getting like maybe one-word replies, maybe like a sentence here and there, and that was it. I was like, does this guy hate me? I could never get a good read on him.
I think that was most people's problem with him is that he, as someone said, it was like talking to a computer because it was like, you put in a response and it'd be like LOL back or something. It wasn't really like an in-depth conversation going on with him. And really, I don't think he's a bad player. I think he's pretty good. I just think he was lacking on his social game.
Yeah, I think he was wanting to talk game but didn't know how to initiate it. Because, I mean, I remember in whatever season he was in, he was kind of the game bot, and here his complaint was that he didn't get to talk game to anyone.
Yeah, and really, Socotra was his only game before this. So of the players here, maybe one of the most inexperienced. So that probably plays a little bit into his lack of social ability in these things. At the same time, he was runner up, so he didn't do too terribly. Even though I think he was dragged along as a GOAT, it's still a viable strategy. He wasn't like completely useless.
I think one of his problems too is that he was allied with people who were much bigger personalities than him intentionally, but because he was aligned with them, like when people think about, the merge, when they think about the tribes they were on with him pre-merge, they think about Moana, they think about Lee even as like people who he was just kind of attached to. He was their number. You don't think about just Benji. You think about Benji as Moana's sidekick, And I think that probably affected why he was down where he was.
And he just annoyed me on a personal level in the final tribal when he was taking credits for moves that had nothing to do with him. I mean, I get it. He was shooting his shot and trying to claim everything that could help them to win. But it was like he had nothing to do with Connor and I playing our idols. Not for me, at least. That was just all broke.
It could have been that he assumed he did, though. I mean, I believe he really thought that he did. And I think that is a lack of awareness on his part. And I think if he had a little bit more awareness, he would be a lot better poised to win. And I think that comes from playing a bit more. Some people have it naturally, but I do think had he played a few more games before this, he would have been a little bit better of a player.
Yeah.
In 14th place, we have Phoebe.
Oh, Phoebe.
I gotta say that's too low for Phoebe. But
I agree. I think Phoebe's one of the bigger characters this season. I know we're about to hear it from Nofo, though.
I love Phoebe, but like she pissed me off. She really pissed me off. Like I felt personally betrayed.
But that's the point. It's like she's chilled emotions in people.
She was she was purely a character. Like she was okay strategy, but really just a character of, people would come to her with votes or tell her that someone said something and that was it for Phoebe. She was dead set on getting them out. Really a fun character this season.
It was so off base. Like, I mean, she thought people hated her that adored her. It made no sense.
My favorite running gag of the season was we're sitting there 2 votes before the merge, and she's still like, I can't vote with Shane and Jackie at the merge because they ranked me number 9. I could never work with them again. And I was like, bitch, that was 7 votes ago. Like, you're still like thinking about being voted number 9.
And you know what? Then she offered to vote Moana out with me in some plan that she had like fully talked out with me that I had no clue about. So I had to go to Moana and be like, I literally had no idea what she was talking about.
And as if Shane and Jackie are the sole reason that ranking happened,
I was the queen bitch. So obviously it was all me who decided everything, just so you all know.
But yeah, that's Phoebe in a nutshell. Just completely irrational, very fun character, especially up against people like Brooke and some of these other crazies.
I think she's been my favorite person to go back and read her confessionals. Just like for my own personal game, looking at how like over the course of like 4 rounds, I went from like her most hated person to her bitching out Zach when I got blindsided and basically like throwing away any chance she had working with Zach again because she was so pissed that I was voted out. Just the swings were incredible.
Yeah, I think this is way too low because she was such a fun character this season, especially with that public idol. I mean, we've seen it. We saw last season, Moana made it all the way to the end without even having to play it. But we've also seen Sophie infamously bluff her way to the end with the public idol. And Phoebe was looking like she would do it until somebody called her bluff.
Okay, but first of all, like there was no reason not to play your idol when somebody who's getting the votes plays their idol. There is no reason not to.
Well, and the fact that it was Monica who voted for her,
right?
Like, of all people.
But the biggest funny part about that is I voted for Benji there, and
it tied,
and I forced the tie there. But I then was like, and especially when she was saying this shit about Moana, I was like, I'm voting for Phoebe now, and then Monica's like, we're voting for Benji. I'm like, what the fuck, Monica? You voted for Phoebe.
I loved when it tied, and Phoebe was like, I won't play my idol. I will play my idol in the next round. I can only play it for 2 minutes. But if time, it doesn't matter because it'll
the worst
play it the next time.
The worst plea.
I should have been like, will you give me your idol?
Yeah, that would have been a good idea.
Right now, give me your idol. I won't vote for you, and I'd still probably vote for her.
She should have just given it up at that time. I don't know. She was nuts. Like, why not play it? Monica gave her like 3 minutes to decide whether she wants to play it or not.
Yeah, she didn't pull a Rowan. Like, she gave her a sample.
Yeah.
God, that would have been so good for me too. Benji going.
Yeah. It would have been great for us too, as the viewers.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Phoebe didn't play her fucking idol.
Anyway, so moving on to 13th place, we have our very own Connor.
Really? Love him?
Connor.
I thought it was going to be me.
Connor is great when I knew him for like five and a half minutes on OG.
You really should be above me.
In the grand scheme of things, I think that Nofo, you were definitely a bigger character, overarching.
Yeah.
You literally lasted the entire game, Nofo.
Everyone was talking about me to the very end.
You were a final tribal question, so.
And I ever thought I was joking about that question, but I wanted people to answer it. But the one I took from you're like the hate meme at that point.
About Connor. This is about Connor.
Oh yeah, we'll get to it. But Connor, can I talk about Connor?
Yeah, go for it.
Connor, I was getting so close to. Like, I was getting close with Moana and Zach, and that thing was kind of already established, but I almost felt like I could go to Connor more easily than, Moana has this way about her. She's kind of cagey, and if you corner her in something and she doesn't know how to respond, she'll be like, oh, whereas Connor kind of says stuff, and I trust that kind of person a little bit more, but then Connor kind of got ripped from me, and that was hard.
Yeah, I think Connor's boot surprised me the most because I thought for sure he was making the merge. But then he got stuck on Tallulah and then the numbers disadvantage. I think losing Shonee really cost him some ground in the game.
Fucking Phoebe. All her fault.
Yeah.
But no, I don't blame losing other people on me getting voted out. I got myself voted out. But it was me playing the middle and then Brooke realizing, oh shit, like Zach has an idol. Who am I going to get rid of? And obviously she wasn't going to boot Fenella.
I was just hoping that you would go honor that Zach alliance.
No, I wanted to. I fought for Zach to stay when he was being targeted. But then once again, Phoebe had decided that she was flipping and it was going to be 6-2 if I voted with Zach, and I didn't know he had an idol. So I was like, well, fuck it. Like, I'm not going to get left out. And I think had we gone to the first time we were going to vote him out, I wouldn't have left. But then it was given 24 hours and then I was screwed.
Did anybody see that thing that Moana made?
What thing?
Well, before Tribal Council happened, we said who got removed? Luke got removed, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moana made this thing because he thought you guys were going to tribal, like a real tribal, and not just Luke getting removed. So she made a chat called Play Your Idol because I told her about Zach's idol.
Oh, God.
Nobody saw that?
No, it didn't.
Oh, I mean, the whole season, the chats weren't loading. Like, we were just...
Oh, for real?
Yeah, we could never...
Made new ones every time.
Oh, God. I was kind of like, Moana, are you sure you want to do this? And she's like, I already did it. Sorry.
My goal this time around was to try and be a bit more aggressively social, which I think I did. But then I didn't think long term. Like, I didn't think about the fact that Phoebe was using me as a shield as hard as she was. I didn't think about the fact that when we got to a couple votes before the merge, that I would be the obvious idol out. If Zach was going to stay. So I kind of worked myself into a corner, I think.
All right. That's enough about you, Connor.
Thank you. Please move on.
For him, you were so good. Like, I adored you. Like, you were my best friend in that.
Yes, we know. Y'all were best friends. We know. All right. Moving on. In 12th place, we have someone that Shane is very familiar with and one of my favorite players, Jackie, played by Melanie of Orgy, but in Stranded, she was Candace. And one of my favorite players and performances. I was so surprised that she didn't do poorly here, but it wasn't as good as I've seen her in the past. We're about to hear from Shane on Jackie.
So essentially, like, I feel like whatever it was I had with her, I had like a great relationship. I always enjoyed talking to her. But, I obviously noticed something about her is that she was faster to go into strategy talk. And, when I got votes from Benji and JL, I was like, oh, damn it. I was thinking that, Jackie would become somewhat of a shield for me. And I think eventually that's what happened because her penchant to go into really wanting to talk. about strategy, but she was fun. Like I don't think that I think she liked to have her group of people that she really liked, and anybody else she would let know. She kind of through her like tone or whatever would let them know she didn't like them. Like Moana said that and Zach said that. And like after that, there were not as many people protecting her when we got to the merge. And when we were both out of the game, kind of at that point, when there was like that huge lines of 10, it was like hard to protect her, I think.
I love Jackie and everything. I think she's one of the best players I've seen. But I was really upset when I thought she was going first in the merge. And then, of course, Peter saved her, and I was overjoyed at that. That was an amazing moment. I was not upset when she went when she did. I thought it was a good placement for her. I think she had reached her level of gameplay because she was not playing with all of the players in the game like I've seen her do in the past. It was almost like she was frustrated with the game in general and a lot of the people.
I think she was as well. I mean, I had pegged her pretty early on as somebody who was a bit older as far as Stranded goes, only because she kept telling me how much she hated using the IM system. And I think that probably like hurt her a little bit because, you know, you have people like Moana who this is the only way that he's played the game and is constantly chatting with everybody. And Jackie, I would get like paragraphs from her about what she wanted to do. Yeah. Whereas like, that's not a conversation. You would just get like a,
I immediately fingered Val, Jackie, and Zach as older players. I immediately fingered them. Fuck. I immediately.
Excuse you. The only person getting fingered here was Flick, and we've talked about this. But no, like I didn't write that much. But Jackie, if you were away and you had said like a couple sentences to her, I even said this in my confessional. I think I was like, you'd get back and she'd have like 5 messages to you about what she thought about everything. You know, it's like, oh my God, what's happening?
Pasting those. There's no way she was writing those to every single person.
I'll talk a little bit about that because really, I was talking to Shane about this last night. Like the game has evolved so much with the new messenger system. And I almost forget because it's just the way it is now. But whenever we have the old school players, you're kind of reminded that they have to adjust their games. And really, I think people get a lot closer in these new seasons than they ever did in previous seasons. But also, you know, we saw in Revenge, Jackie came into that. That was really the first All-Stars we had with the new chat system.
We didn't have that for the first half of the game, though.
That's right. And people didn't even use it when we had it. They preferred the private messaging. For those listening who have no idea what I'm talking about, there's a built-in, almost like an email system in the forums, and we've since integrated like an instant messaging system. And the older school players, they didn't play with the new instant messaging system, so it's like a new level of gameplay for them. I think Jackie was one of those players who was frustrated by that and couldn't adapt her game to it. And I think it suffered a lot because of that.
I think that's what I was able to do. Like, I think, not talking about me, I'm saying like in comparison, like I played board games and she probably hasn't, I don't know how much she's done that, you know? So I've played, like talked to people on like Slack and Discord where she's like, only, right. And then, you know, that she just kind of like would love to, she wouldn't respond to you right away with things, but she'd, you know, give you everything you needed to hear eventually. So that was good.
She would sit on messages, like where everyone else would kind of immediately respond. She would sit on them and like really think things through, then send you messages.
I mean, that's probably smart.
Well, that's how she plays. You know, I think that's how she plays. She's very calculated. She's in her original season of Faroe Islands, where she really was almost the winner. She was able to really socially dominate that season and control most of the votes because she would just cut through the bullshit with people, I think. And I really was looking forward to seeing that here. It's a shame we didn't get to. I hope maybe eventually she can kind of adapt a little bit more if she decides to play again, which I hope she does. That was Jackie.
You know, before, I think that, you know how I said I like to like accommodate myself? Or like that's how I think you should play. That's exactly what, like when I heard Zach say that she doesn't, you know, bullshit too much. So like when right before the first swap happened, I was like, you know what? Let's cut through the bullshit. I said those exact words, you know, hoping that would work. And then that's when our kind of alliance blossomed. And it was so perfect for her. I think that encapsulates who she is.
Yeah, I can't imagine her getting along with Moana. Being able to cut through bullshit quickly. Yeah. I don't think she would go for that. Anyway, love Jackie. Hope to see her again. Moving on to 11th place. Fittingly, right above Jackie is Peter. Peter played by Chris from Stranded, the winner of Isolated 3, Russell, and really a big online gamer. I mean, he's played Stranded a few times, 4 times, I think. And every time he plays, he's interesting. But this time, he was more of his over-the-top self than he has before. I think when he was in Nepal was the most similar he's played to this. But really fun in this game. I'm upset that he gave up his immunity, but I'm glad he did it if he was going to go semi-inactive. And I'm glad he saved Jackie when he did. Thoughts on Peter?
I loved Peter this season. Having hosted him on Isolated, I remember just like the entire time, he was always there. He was always fun, but he was never like the standout character, like somebody that you were like, oh man, I would love it if Russell won. Near the end, you're like, oh, he's strategic. He's great. He would be a good winner. But this season, he was just so much fun to watch. And when you got to play with him, he was still strategic. He was still a good player, but gave us so much more personality, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, I think Peter was a major player in the dynamics going into the merge, but especially on early Dejaru. I think he got his hands dirty. Maybe some of you guys.
He was
a little rat.
He was, but he was so. But actually, I did find him to be like terrifying to me because but he was telling me a lot of this information. It turns out, which was, cool. Really, actually telling me exactly what he wanted to do, and he succeeded at it. He's like, I want to play the middle, and I think he was doing it really well because he on the popularity poll, he was really exactly where he wanted to be, and I think he knows how to do things. Like he knows how to set himself up.
My favorite thing that happened to Dejaru was he told you about Pia's alliance, and then you told me, and I found out that I was going to be approached about being in an alliance before Pia had come and talked to me.
Yeah, that was funny, and tell everybody the alliance of that.
It was like me, you, Jackie, Peter, and Pia, and
no,
I was like,
it wasn't me. It was Benji. Was the other one.
Oh, fucking Benji! I forgot about that.
Benji. It was just this random amalgam of people.
But yeah, I loved the way he played this season.
I love the way he played, and I love the way he went out. And it was really interesting to see him play again, especially as one of our winners. I've said that a lot, but I do think the winners played a huge part in the season, more than everyone else. And it does get me excited. I think this was proof of concept for a future winter season, whenever that may be.
I just wish he would have put pressure on Fenella. I really wish he would have, put more pressure on her with his statements about her. And I wish I wish he would have pushed her as the vote there rather than just quit.
How many people, this is talking about Peter then, what he could have done there is like, how many people could have told Brooke about who Fenella was like really to her? Or did nobody know yet?
I don't think anyone
knew.
If Brooke thinks that Fenella's with her, there's nothing there because that was the first vote at the merge, Nobody's going to do anything like that unless there's a clear schism. I really don't think it would have worked for Peter, which sucks.
Well, but I'm happy with Peter's game. I think it was a nice end cap for him to give up his immunity, even though, I hate when people quit, especially good players, but I was excited when he did that,
It was exciting.
Anyway, I guess we can move on to our top 10 in this fan favorite poll.